All right, guys, what's up? Welcome back to another episode of the podcast. Let's go ahead and kick it off. Hello and welcome, guys. Messed it up. Control Z. Get that back to where it was. I was highlighting the wrong thing. All right, take two. Hello, guys, and welcome back to another episode of the Liberated Millionaire Podcast. I'm pumped to have you and just want to let you know that I care about you, I love you, and I want you to succeed and be happy. We're going to make that happen for you today on this episode, just like always. And again, the point of this week's episodes is I'm going to share quote-unquote weird things I'm doing, which I don't actually use the word weird, I just call them non-standard behaviors, meaning they're not standard for society. And I've talked about this before, but chances are if what you're doing is what everybody else in society is doing, you're very unhappy and you're not really achieving what you're meant to achieve, right? It's pretty obvious that that's the case. And so I'm always pushing you to think differently and be different, not because you need to be special or different than everybody else, right? Again, I'm not a person who wants to be different than everybody else. I love being like other people. I love feeling the companionship. But people are doing like all the wrong things, and so I want to help you broaden your mindset so you can do the right things for you. So I'm here to give you an example of some of the non-standard behaviors I am doing in my own life so that then you can figure out what the right non-standard behaviors are for you. Yesterday, I talked about how using different language is one of my non-standard behaviors. I don't call things weird. I don't want to be weird or extraordinary. Then you just end up getting Dobby complexed, as I like to call it. Instead, I want to use non-standard behaviors that are specifically talented and right for me. And one of these things I do constantly, which you can either do or just, again, think of something analogous or just think of something to inspire yourself to do something totally different, is one of the things you can do is you can start watching videos specifically meant to make you cry and trigger your emotions every day, okay? And so the best example I can think of this off the bat is, especially because of all the racial chaos in America, right? And just re-highlighting, not that it's new news, right, about racism in America, but the re-highlighting of the Black Lives Matter movement with the George Floyd case and all of this, right? What it's doing is making us all think about race more. And I see a lot of people like there's a standard behavior for talking about race in America. And standard behavior looks like this. I'm going to get on Facebook and post a bunch of information to try and convince people so that suddenly nobody is racist, right? That's a standard behavior. And so if you were looking to, have an experience that would help you grow and help your country and help, people of color and help all that, right? You're probably getting on Facebook and posting things trying to help, right? That's a standard behavior, okay? And it's not that I don't do that. In fact, I ran a 3 live series on, different things about racism, right? In ways I'm growing and helping with that, right? And Preetha and I have Black Lives Matter artwork and we sell it and we do that kind of stuff, right? But chances are, I want to draw a correlation between standard behaviors and frustration and resentment right now. Okay, standard behavior, even if you're someone who is really politically active or whatever, your standard behavior to try and help the Black Lives Matter movement, to help for racial equity in America, is probably get on Facebook and post stuff. And then you see things that make you angry from other people, and then you try to convince them, and then both sides end up resentful. And then you probably go back to your family or friends or whoever really agrees with you, and then you all probably just all post stuff together that's just a bunch of, similar stuff. And somehow you also think that by just posting anti-racist stuff in a group of people who are already anti-racist, that's going to solve everything as well. And so, I have to walk a fine line here between offending people and saying what I actually think, because what I actually think is that, those standard behaviors, while better than nothing, are not going to solve the problem. And this is the way I tend to look at things, right? I don't look at, does it help? I look at, does it get me to the end goal? All right? This is one of the insights you can take from me talking and thinking about standard versus non-standard behaviors. I think a lot of standard behaviors are based on helping, but for me, I only ever take an action based on the end goal. And so just right, again, I'm going to keep re-referencing some of my other material. The other day, I did a parable episode live on Facebook and for YouTube about ice climbing and how life is like ice climbing, where most people look at this icy mountain they got to climb up, right? And they just try and scramble up it. And they think if they're working hard, right, and they're climbing partially up and then slipping down, that's better than nothing. But for me, I look at the mountain and I'm like, if I were to get to the top of that mountain, right, how would I do it? And then I would think, well, there's no way I'm going to do it by just scrambling up the side of the thing. Like, I'm going to fall back down. It's too icy. I'm going to have to make boots with spikes and get a couple pickaxes and make myself the perfect machine, and then I'll just chop my way up, right? That's how ice climbers actually climb, okay? And so that's important. And so I would liken, right? Like, I know it's a touchy subject, but I do have to be honest about my feelings. I would liken all the posting on Facebook and posting in texts and arguing with your friends and family. And for me, I am really liberal. I assume most of my audience is pretty liberal. And so, like, it's like a bunch of liberal people all talking to each other, right? And then we all see the conservative person on Facebook and we block them, right? That's what I do, at least. Like, I'm not kidding, right? This is what Facebook is for, is reinforcing behaviors within your own social circles, right? Facebook is not for creating a diverse experience that that broadens your horizons. That's not what it's meant for, guys. And so if you're going to be on Facebook, internet, like, stuff like that, you got to understand that. Like, for me, I get on Facebook to reinforce patterns and behaviors that I want. And so I am actually that person who blocks people who say things I don't agree with. And you might say, well, Woody, you're going inside your own bubble, right? But the point is, yeah, I'm going inside my own bubble because I don't want to interact with people who are bringing negative energy or who aren't informed, right? And so it might sound counterintuitive, but that's the truth. And I've gone off on a little political rant here, but I think it's important that I be always completely transparent about my inner thought process, otherwise you won't understand what I'm thinking. And so where am I going with all this, right? The point is, one of the non-standard behaviors I've been doing lately, which I think is really fascinating, okay, and I would like to bring up to you, is that with all the racial chaos in America, the best way I've found that I'm able to help is every day I'm watching multiple times a clip from Remember the Titans, the left side, strong side clip, where they're like, the Gary and Julius, or whoever the two main guys are, I forget their names, are talking, and then they're like, do the little headbutt thing, and they get all excited, and suddenly the black guys and the white guys are friends, and they're like, yeah, left side, strong side, woo! And then I just cry, and I actually cry. And I will watch that clip, 2 times, 5 times, 10 times, whatever it takes, just over and over, the 30 seconds, the best part of it, just multiple times. And that's just so inspiring to me and so empowering, right? And so I would say just at the base level, that's the non-standard behavior I'm taking, is I take that energy that I would have spent, right, arguing on Facebook or texting my family and friends who already agree with me, right, whatever, like, I take that energy and instead I'm using it to emotionally condition myself. Now you might, like again, this is easy to attack, right? If you wanted to attack me for what I've said so far on this episode, you're more than welcome to, okay? Because I've just told you that rather than informing and educating, and rather than donating, which I am doing, but rather than donating money, I think this emotional intelligence of me watching a movie clip over and over again is far more helpful in creating a result than any of those other things. And if you don't agree with that, again, you're welcome to even leave a comment and say, dude, I think you're like ridiculous. Like, I think this is the dumbest thing I've ever heard. And I won't delete your comment. I'll say thanks for the feedback. I don't mind, okay? Because honestly, I'm just, frankly, like, always glad to get engagement. But there's an important heuristic at play here, right? Like, before I go into why I think that behavior is so helpful and how I do it in other areas, the heuristic I'm doing, right, is super simple. And if you can just grasp this logical heuristic, like this logical, I don't know, maybe it's a syllogism. Like, I think a syllogism is when you say, like, well, A is equal to B and B is equal to C. Therefore, A is equal to C, right? Like, I think that's what's called a logical syllogism. I may have used the wrong word or explained that wrong. But basically, you use a couple logical inferences to come to a final conclusion. Here is my logical syllogism, right, for handling racial chaos in America. Okay? Lots of people are very angry on Facebook. Everyone is talking about it and spreading information. Racism is not solved. Therefore, talking on Facebook cannot solve racism, right? And so it's a fascinating logical step. And again, like, the back of my head, if you don't, like, know, right, it's not like I'm, like, just super confident all the time. It's like the back of my head is screaming right now, like, why are you saying this live on Facebook? Why are you saying this on podcasts? Why are you saying this on YouTube? Like, where everyone can attack you and every single one of your liberal social circle can tear you down and destroy you, right? That's what my, like, scared brain is saying. But I'm going to say it anyway because I know it's true for me. Which is, again, my logical inference just gets there in 2 steps. It's just like, everybody is angry and talking about a bunch of stuff on Facebook, okay? Racism is not solved. Therefore, talking about things and getting angry will not solve racism, right? And it sounds wild, it sounds crazy. And most people argue like, well, but I gotta be helping, you gotta be doing something, you know? But again, this is where my mindset is different. My mindset is not I've gotta be helping. If something is a lost cause, I don't want to help. And I don't think racism is a lost cause, to be clear. But I think arguing is a lost cause, always. I think criticism is always a lost cause. And so what I'm doing instead is I'm training my brain to be so emotionally intelligent, to be so compassionate, to be so powerful, to be so allied, that in every situation I ever come to that involves racial equity or anything, I'm like the ultimate person of compassion. I'm like the ultimate public speaker. I'm the ultimate friend, right? I'm the ultimate speaker. And again, right, it's so self-based. You know, you're going to get a much more selfish message from me than you will from a lot of other people. Because my selfish thought is, well, great, I could yell to my friends on Facebook and raise a couple $100, or I could spend the next 10 years of my life becoming someone who is so emotionally intelligent, so captivating, so intense, so passionate, who's done, how many videos do I make a day? I make 5 videos a day. Who's made, 10,000 videos or more, right? I could be that person. I could be the person who's made 15,000 videos and now makes $40 million a year. And of that $40 million a year, I could donate $20 million a year to racial equity movements or whatever. And so, I'm not saying everybody has to be that person, but I am saying that if you want to have an extraordinary impact on the world, right? There's nothing wrong with being ordinary, right? So just forget that, right? But if you want to, if you sense, this is a better way to put it. If you sense something inside yourself that can do more, right? Okay? And so it's not that I think I want to be special or I need to be the savior of the universe or whatever. It's that I'm here inside myself and I know that I can do exponentially more than I'm doing right now. I know that I can do insane amounts. So you just look inside yourself and find that within yourself. And whatever is yelling at you, you can do more. That's when you take the focus off of the education and convincing others, whatever field you're in, and you just focus it back on yourself and building yourself up. And so one of the non-standard things I do is that anytime I feel, emotionally frustrated, rather than trying to get what I want from other people, I'll pull up an emotional video and I'll cry to it and I'll build that emotional muscle for myself. And not just about racial equity, that's just the topic that seemed most salient to me. But just in everyday life, right? I will pull up the YouTube video of Klay Thompson scoring 37 points in a quarter, and I'll just go bonkers to it, watching it on TV because I'm a basketball fan. But it's the human potential, it's the emotions, right, of that crowd watching him do that that's just insane. Or I'll pull up the video of the nun on The Voice Italy, singing Alicia Keys or whatever. It's amazing. And then all the Voice people turn around and there's this big mustached Italian guy going grazie, grazie. And then this nun is crying and there are these other nuns and it's just you cry, right? Or, I'll listen to Christian music and just bawl my eyes out at night. And the reason I'm doing all these non-standard behaviors is because I personally see that I can have a huge impact, but only if I'm emotionally intelligent. And I can only be happy if I'm expressing my human emotions. And so that's my insight into my non-standard behaviors. I just thought the Left Side Strong side video was a cool example of taking it from the mental level of trying to educate people to the emotional level. And I'm not even showing it to anyone. I'm not even watching it with anyone. But the point is, right, that I'm creating the me who is emotionally there, who's emotionally not scared, who's emotionally passionate and loving, right? And just like with the ice climbing, where you can pretend to scrabble up the slope and just keep falling back down, right? It's just while we're being honest, I'm always surprised that people wait for another bad thing to happen before they write and protest. It's this has been happening for 400 years as far as racism goes. And so I get that individual happenings can protest, but especially if you're a white person or if you're an educated liberal white person or whatever, my demographic, right? It's don't wait for something to happen. Be working on the you that makes a change every single freaking day. Just because some things happen, right, doesn't mean you need to feel bad now and do something now, right? When things are in motion, right? What about all the things that have happened in the past years? You should always be thinking about that. And so it's another thought heuristic that's different from me than other people, is I just don't get caught up in the moment. And it's why I don't watch news, is because news is a repetition of all the things that have been happening in human history for thousands of years. And it's just another cycle. And so it just always boggles my mind. And I'm just ranting here, but I'm just having fun, right? Again, leave me feedback, say you hate me, I don't care. But just it boggles my mind. Everybody watches the news and they're like, oh my God, today this happened, right? And I'm like, yes, congratulations. Like, yes, America has been racist and has been killing and extorting and hurting people of color for 400 years. Like, why are you only outraged today? You should have been outraged from the moment you read a history textbook, right? And granted, history doesn't really teach it well, but it's like, why are you upset today? You could have been upset, 4 or 5 or 10 or 20 years ago, right? Whenever you realized. And so I know people are constantly waking up, right? This is not an attack on people, but it's just, you got to think non-standard. And so the reason I'm putting myself out here, right, putting all my dirty laundry, or that's another thing I'm quoting, dirty laundry, all my personal thoughts out here, is because it's logically just use a couple syllogisms and get to the end result. And the end result says practice your emotions, practice your consciousness, practice your focus, become the person who can actually change. If you remember on Liberated Millionaire, right, my theme is change yourself, change your life, change the world, no dream is too big. All you can ever do is change yourself. And so today I hope this message just kind of triggers you to think, how can I change myself emotionally, mentally, physically, or in terms of my consciousness, instead of trying to change others? You actually cannot change others. All you can do is become a person who happens to have an effect on others. And so the more time you spend focused on changing yourself and letting the changed you affect others, rather than trying to change others, that's when you're going to get the amazing results and feel really happy. And so, I don't know, this was kind of a wild ride of an episode, right? Again, my mind, I'm a very compassionate, gentle person. I hate causing conflict. And it felt like I expressed a lot of, attackable thoughts and beliefs in this from both sides of the spectrum, right? Which is something I kind of tend to do. And so, again, I'm nervous, but I'm going to publish anyway because this is my policy. And so, guys, that's one non-standard thing you can do, right? And the most abstract, it's just pick something that changes your own emotions, right? Instead of trying to convince somebody else or find agreement or significance in other people who agree with me, I am focused solely on making myself as emotionally strong as possible so that whatever situation I end up in, I can handle it better. And again, for the long game, because for me, I see this, multi-million-dollar future with all these huge businesses and all this big impact, right? That's just what I see for myself. It doesn't mean you have to see that for yourself, but it does mean that you have a voice inside yourself. And that voice is telling you something, and it's your subconscious and this conscious combining to take all this data and tell you what you're capable of. And if you don't listen to it, right, and you do all these regular society behaviors, right, if you spend your day just trolling around, right, complaining and gossiping and stuff, then yeah, your mind and body are going to rebel against that. Your spirit's going to rebel against that. So you do need to kind of look and listen to yourself. So this is one of my non-standard behaviors, again, watching these emotional videos and crying every day. And it's really fun, and I just love doing it, and I hope that you'll take inspiration from that. And another non-standard behavior, perhaps, while we're here, is expressing controversial views in public, right? Because I'm not the moral authority over you. I can't tell you how to live your life. I'm not smarter than you or better than you, okay? I'm just a person with thoughts. And so imagine a world where we all exposed our thoughts and didn't criticize each other, and it was okay if we disagreed, right? That's the goal I'm going for in this podcast today, talking about all the racial equity stuff and different strategies, right? And, saying that for me, a lot of those standard behaviors aren't working. It's that I think we could all share what we're doing unique, and if we all embrace each other's unique stuff, then, the world becomes a better place. So guys, that's it for today. I've had a blast talking to you, and we'll be back tomorrow with another non-standard behavior. Woo! All right, that was fun, guys. So I had a great time here today. Again, sorry for all the lag, but we're gonna stop streaming, stop recording, and get right to putting this stuff up on YouTube. We'll see you tomorrow.